Coach John here. In this video, I'm going to answer a question from one of my subscribers, which was, John, what core exercises can I do to improve my performance in Taekwondo? Well, this information will really apply to any sport or any individual that wants to improve their core strength, endurance, and overall athleticism. Keep in mind this is general information. If you have back pain, some of these exercises could actually cause you more harm than good. So please get a proper assessment done from a qualified individual. Now, I highly recommend Dr. Stuart McGill's book, Ultimate Back Fitness and Performance, if you want to get into more of the high performance core training. Dr. Stuart McGill is world renowned. He's one of the top spine biomechanics researchers in the world, one of the top practitioners in the world when it comes to helping athletes who have had major spine injuries, as well as just people who have had really, really bad back injuries. And he has helped many, many individuals come back. And some of these individuals have even come back to set new world records, such as Brian Carroll, for example. There's nobody more qualified in the world, in my opinion, when it comes to core training, spine biomechanics, than Dr. Stuart McGill. His website is backfitpro.com. I highly recommend you check it out. Another great book, if you want to get more into the science, is Low Back Disorders. And finally, if you want to get into taking care of your own back pain, if you've had back pain and you just can't seem to get rid of it, check out Back Mechanic. This is the book for you to figure out the cause of your pain and how to get rid of the cause. So check those books out. Now, when it comes to core training, before we get into that, we need to ask ourselves, what is the function of the core? Well, it has a few main functions. One of them is to produce stiffness. If we don't have a stiff core, we cannot produce much force with our limbs. So the term Dr. McGill uses, or the phrase, is proximal stiffness gives us distal athleticism. So distal is the limbs, and proximal is the core. You may have heard the phrase, you can't fire a cannon from a canoe. It's kind of the same idea. You can't fire a strong punch or a fast punch if you don't have a good base of support. So what's another function of the core is to produce stiffness, or to prevent micro movements of the vertebrae. To keep the spine in alignment requires stiffness. Another function of the core is to give us armor to protect our internal organs. So the main functions are to produce to prevent micro movements in the spine, to keep the spine in alignment, to produce stiffness, so we have distal athleticism, and to give us armor. So what core exercises should you do to improve or increase stiffness? Well, they're not going to be exercises where you're moving your spine. So you're not going to be doing lateral bends or whatever you call them. You're not going to be doing crunches or sit-ups. You're not going to be doing twisting movements. Basically, to train stiffness, you need to remain stationary here. So exercises such as front planks, side planks, Pallof press, where you're resisting a movement or where you're resisting a torque, those are the key exercises to perform. Exercises such as farmer walks, where you're walking with two heavy objects, or a suitcase carry, where you're carrying an object in one hand and you're preventing this lateral flexion of the spine. Okay, so when you're doing the pedal-off press, you're preventing yourself from rotating. So you're training that stiffness and you're resisting that twist. When you're doing the front plank, you're preventing yourself from arching your back and you're preventing your hips from dropping. When you're doing the side plank, you're having to be stiff to prevent yourself from dropping your hips down. These are the main exercises to focus on. So if you see any exercises that involve movement of your spine, those are not good exercises to increase stiffness and therefore performance. Dr. McGill was involved in a study where they measured the force and velocity of strikes of Muay Thai fighters. When you train stiffness by doing the appropriate exercises, you actually get a stiffness that lasts in your core for a little while after those exercises. So what they did was they did some of these exercises before measuring their force and velocity on the bag. And what happened was their force and velocity actually increased after performing some of these exercises, which is evidence to show that increased stiffness actually increases performance distally. So what exercises should you do? Well, it really depends on your individual requirements. But in general, I like to look at the 3 planes, the anatomical planes. So we have the frontal plane, which my arms are moving in right now. We have the transverse plane, and we have the sagittal plane. If you focus on training in those 3 planes, you should be pretty good. See, most people just focus on the sagittal plane. Crunches and sit-ups, crunches and sit-ups, crunches and sit-ups all day long. So if I was going to train stiffness and train my core without any spinal movement in the sagittal plane, I would be doing a front plank. If I was going to train my core in the frontal plane, I would be doing a side plank or a suitcase carry, because this is in the frontal plane. If I wanted to train in the transverse plane, I could be doing something like a pal-off press where I'm holding onto a band. For example, I'm maintaining my posture and I'm resisting the pull of the band. Other things you could do would be a side plank roll, ensuring that there is no separation or no separation between your ribs and your hips. I'll show you what I mean by that here. So if you have the side plank mastered with straight legs, nice straight body, what you could do to train in the transverse plane is a rotation. So the most important thing here is that my ribs and my hips are locked together. So you see how my thumb is on my ribs and my finger is on my hip and they're moving together? This is key. You don't want to be twisting the spine. So you could be doing an exercise such as tapping the shoulder like this, or you could also go all the way around to the other side like that. So let's just run through a few exercises here for a general core training program. A front plank, just holding a front plank like this would be great. Side plank, nice straight body. It's useful to have a mirror or videotape yourself so you can ensure your posture is really good. The rotation that I just showed you from the side plank, the pal-off press, those would be really good if that's all you ever did. The carries, suitcase carry, farmer walk. The ab wheel is actually quite good too. Once again, ensuring there's no movement in your spine. All the movement here should only occur at my shoulder joint. That's a more advanced exercise. There's the modified curl up that Dr. McGill came up with a lot of research. I'm not going to get into this too much right now. I have a video on this one specifically, but basically you're creating stiffness, and that's as much as you're moving. For more information on that, see the video that I put up. But that's really it. Like, you just want to go through exercises where there's no movement in your spine and where you're having to resist a torque or a moment, as Dr. McGill puts it. So you don't want movement in your spine when you are training for stiffness. There's lots of other exercises you could do, such as on the big ball. The stir the pot is a great one, because you're training stiffness while having movement at your shoulder joint. So you could do stir the pot, you could do a roll out back and forth like this. Once again, no movement at the spine. Another exercise that would be applicable to Taekwondo specifically, or kicking in general, would be knee tucks or leg raises. These are very advanced exercises though, so just make sure you're qualified to perform them first. With the knee tuck, you could use the ball, and you are going to be stiff through the core, minimal spine movement, but you're going to be explosive through the hip. So I will just demonstrate a few with the ball here. I could do single leg or double leg. So the way I would do this would be here, and then quickly exploding in with my knees like so. So hopefully that gives you a good overall idea of what you should be focusing on. Focus in those 3 planes: sagittal, frontal, transverse. Pick an exercise for each of those, and then I would implement some carries too. Suitcase carry, farmer walk, and that should pretty much cover your core training. So hopefully that helped. I hope it wasn't too general. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them below. Please subscribe and click on, notifications so you know when I have a new video coming out. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.